Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is Breathe at Home. And this is going to be a reflection on empowerment. So I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen if you don't already have one, and draw a crisscross on your page so that you have 4 quadrants, 4 spaces to write in, or you can fold your page hot dog hamburger style. And I want you to just write down at the top of the page, leaving room for reflections in the quadrants. I want you to write down a situation or a topic where you feel disempowered, or recently you have felt disempowered. So go ahead and that's going to be the topic we're going to play with today. All right, whatever came up, allow that to be the thing that you play with, knowing that you can always come back and do this reflection exercise with any moments of disempowerment that you want. Also, a reminder that if any point during this video you need to pause and give yourself more time, please feel free to do that. I will keep going at a pace that allows us to complete this reflection in about 10 to 15 minutes. And as I said, take as much time as you need. Trust that in yourself. So in this arena where you're feeling disempowered, in the first quadrant, I want you to write down, how would you like to experience that moment? That moment of disempowerment happened in a way that feels disempowered. How would you actually like to experience it? Who would you ideally like to be? How would you ideally like to feel? What would ideally happen? How would you act? How would you respond? How would you listen? How would you show up? Go ahead and just allow what comes up to come up. In this moment of disempowerment, how do you actually want to experience it? Don't worry about the how in terms of how will I make sure that I do this. Just what does it look like? And allow yourself to dream big, as if anything is possible. Don't hold back. Don't worry about the logistics of how it comes to fruition. Just go there. What do you want to experience? What would it look like if that was an empowered experience for you? If you want more time, go ahead and pause the video. Otherwise, we'll move on to the second quadrant. And in this space, I want you to write down, in order to have what you want from the first quadrant, what's your responsibility? What can you control in bringing that vision to life? In bringing that ideal state, that empowered state to life? What's your responsibility in that? And What can you actually control? And write down those things. All right, we're going to move on to the third quadrant. And in this space, I want you to reflect on what you can't control. What actually isn't your responsibility? What do you need to recognize is somebody else's responsibility or up to life? What can't you control in this situation? And as you write that down, notice where you may be like, oh, I actually was trying to control that. And there are some variables here that are out of my control. So what are those variables that are out of your control that require a bit of trust and an allowance for them to show up as they will in this situation? What are the variables that are out of your control in this situation? And sometimes when I am doing this reflection and I'm recognizing the variables that I can't control, it might help me realize like, oh, I can't control this, but I can actually, like, I can't control this other person maybe having a bad day, but I can control how I respond to it. So there might be some additional things that come up for you to put into quadrant 2 around what you can control as you recognize the variables that you can't control. So within that space of the things you can't control that might show up the way you don't want, what control do you have in your experience, even if those show up the way that you ideally wouldn't want them to? So before we move on to the fourth quadrant, I want you to just look at all the things in that third quadrant that you cannot control. And I invite you to give yourself the space to have 3 deep belly breaths and literally allow each exhale to let go of all of those variables that are out of your control. Letting go. Releasing what is out of your power and trusting it to the people who own that responsibility, or life that owns its responsibility. And when you're ready to move on to the fourth quadrant, I want you to just think about where you might be able to start empowering yourself today. So walking away from this reflection, having a new awareness of how you want to experience empowerment in this situation and what you can actually do to control that, and what's your responsibility in that, what your role is in that. What do you want to start doing today? What could you start doing today to start to shift that dynamic and take your power back for you? What would it look like if you were empowered today in this situation? And wherever you landed today, I invite you to experiment with it and try it and see what happens, knowing that you can always try something different, gather some new information. A lot of times when we feel disempowered in a situation, it can be easy to try and grasp onto, it's not fair, it's because of that, it's because of that. And every time we are pointing outside of ourselves, we are actually indicating to ourselves that we are outsourcing our power. We are seeking outside of ourselves where something out there could be different in order for us to feel better. And when we can give ourselves the chance to slow down a little bit and recognize, oh, I actually don't have control over that. This is my experience. So what's my responsibility right now in taking that power back for myself so that I can experience what I want to experience? And that can sometimes be easier said than done. And the first step is kind of understanding where within an experience our power still is, where our responsibility is, where our empowerment is, and then taking the steps to stand in that space of empowerment, whether it's conversations that need to happen, or new perspectives, or new behaviors, or new thoughts. It is the gamut. And if you are feeling disempowered, that is very normal. So don't worry about it. Just give yourself the space to recognize, all right, if my power isn't here right now, where might it be? And where can I bring it back to me and stand in my empowerment so that I can be the leader of my life, having the experience that I want to have, one step at a time. Thank you so much for your courageous reflection and for allowing me to guide you through it. I am Rachel, and this is Breathe at Home.